Hi, I'm Chuck Gibson. This is Taking Stock with Art Jarvis, a bi-weekly discussion of what is happening in the economy, the world of finance, and personal investment with Art Jarvis. Taking Stock with Art Jarvis is a presentation of Loveland Beacon in partnership with Jarvis Global Investments, LLC. Now here is Taking Stock. Well, welcome back, Art Jarvis. Episode 40, Taking Stock. And I like to say, Taking Stock with Art Jarvis.
There you go.
And we should say this, Jarvis Global Investments.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for Jarvis Global Investments and the loyalty, the sponsorship. But anyway, welcome back once again.
Oh, no. Great to be. Again, I've said this multiple times. I enjoy this. I really do. It's productive. Right?
I enjoy it.
Yeah.
I enjoy it.
I can't believe we're at episode 40, though.
How did that happen?
I know. Seems like we started this little project just a few weeks ago.
A minute ago.
Uh-huh.
Well, it's like how your kids are like born and then they're 18.
Yeah. Or 30.
And we used to say, and then they're gone. Well, that's a whole different part of the equation now because they seem like they hang around. But hey, welcome back for episode 40, which you and I have had much discussion off the air about the fact that this will be the final Taking Stock edition of 2024 calendar year.
Yeah.
And so for the listeners, now mark this on your calendars when you hear this episode. You're going to want to tune back in on Tuesday, January 7th, 2025. And we already know some of that show because we're going to go back on what you had forecast for 2024.
I already completely forgot everything I forecasted.
That's okay. We're going to go back. Well, we've talked about some of the things in your forecast, like a couple of things that seem maybe like out there, like what the S&P 500 was going to do.
Yeah.
Has surpassed
by a lot.
By a lot. So, but it'll be fun to take a look back when we get started in the new year on Tuesday, January 7th, and it's kind of an interesting time right now because of some of what we've talked about and things that have taken place. So I'm going to start us off with this.
Okay.
Well, and I'm glad that you're off to a good start for the Christmas holiday season and that Thanksgiving was wonderful. But I'm going to start us off taking stock. So you heard, I'm sure, that the President-elect Donald Trump has stated, I will not ask Jerome Powell to leave. Any comments on that? What are your thoughts?
I think that's a good decision. I think, once again, the markets don't like uncertainty, correct?
That's what I've learned.
That removes a certain amount of uncertainty from the markets, which is a good thing. I think I've been pretty clear how I feel about some of the decisions that have been made along the way by Fed Chairman Powell. But I think the economy and things are in a good place, and I think we're at a point where big decisions don't need to be made per se, that maybe we're kind of getting into tweak mode and maintain mode. So hopefully there's not these big decisions that need to be made that can really jerk the economy around. So I'm fine. Let's put it that way. I'm fine with that.
And of course, then the fun part of that, asking you about that is, and of course, it doesn't really matter whether you're not fine with it.
Well, no. I'm just an investment advisor from Loveland, Ohio, so I don't, no one's calling me and asking me. So, but we've gotten to. Here's the thing. We've gotten to where I think we need to be. I just wish we had chosen a different path to get to where we are. Let's put it that way. We went through a whole lot of unnecessary volatility, as I've mentioned in the past, and it would have been nicer if we got to where we are today with not having to go through hyperinflation and things like that. Because we're going to, as I've mentioned, we're going to continue to suffer because of that. That's not going to go away. It's changed the way things, how much things cost us. It changed our cost of servicing our debt, national debt, and things. So that's not a good thing. But we're here it is. We got to deal with it. But we're now to a point again where we're at 2-point-something% inflation. We're at 4.2, 4.3 unemployment, which is generally the natural rate of unemployment. So. And corporate earnings numbers look good. The consumer looks good. So I'm happy with where we are. I'm just not, I'll say it again, I'm just not thrilled with how we got here.
Well, it puts you at the table with President-elect Trump, because while he said, and it was very interesting. Did you catch some of this? So I was reading up. I didn't hear a broadcast story of it. I was reading the story about what Trump said, and so he said, I think he wouldn't leave if I asked him.
I think he pretty much stated that.
Yeah. Well, and again, it's like, okay, Donald, state the obvious, because that's exactly what Jerome Powell said. I won't leave if he asks.
Right.
But he said, I think he will if I tell him to.
Yeah. Wow.
So that was an interesting, discerning between if I ask versus if I tell him. So, we had speculated that if Trump came in, January 20th, gets sworn in, and maybe a part of those first orders of business might be, looking at the Fed chairman, Jerome Powell, and asking him to step down. Or, I think they put a quote in the story. I don't know that they really should have put the quote marks. I don't believe that Donald Trump really said this, but then again, maybe he did. You're not fired. And they put that in quotes, Jerome Powell. So bottom line is, he said, if I asked him, I think he wouldn't. But if I told him, we speculated it would go to court, because it's not ever been tested.
Right.
Who really has the authority to relieve the Fed chairman of that position, of his duties? Well, it appears that it is the president, but it's never been done, never been tested, and they think it would. We speculated, and others have said the same thing. That would maybe go to court. Right. Well, now we're not going to. But the additional piece of that Jerome Powell story, and I said you'd be sitting at the same table with President Trump. He made it clear, just as you did. I don't agree with what he's done. Yeah. But it was very interesting. Donald Trump's not stupid, not at all. And he said, while he does stupid things, people are going to argue with me just saying it. I don't mean it that way. But he is not stupid, despite the fact that he does stupid things. He's an intelligent man. He knows what's what. And he said, although I don't agree with him, I made that choice. I brought him on.
Right.
And I still think it was a good choice.
Sure.
So that's a nice, that's a nice piece of that pie, I think.
Yeah. Once again, the markets don't like uncertainty, and to try and fire him would be stirring a pot that, in my opinion, doesn't need stirred. Okay, it's not. It would maybe accomplish what Trump would want to accomplish, but what's the damage that would be done by that, and why cause that kind of damage? Number one. Number two, there is some history to this, because I don't know if you remember or not, but in 2018 we were having a pretty good year. And in the month of December, President Trump was threatening to fire Jerome Powell back in 2018. And that caused the market to drop, if I remember correctly, like 10% right at the end of the year.
Wow. So
we were up, I'm trying to remember exactly, we were up 8% maybe that year, and then the next thing you know, we lost 10% or something. I'm not going to get the numbers exactly right, and then it recovered a little bit, in the last week. But
there's a precedent to support the idea, which there's a million precedents, but in terms of the Fed chairman position being threatened, there's evidence to support that people don't like that uncertainty.
Yeah, no, definitely not. Because then the question is, number one, are you going to get rid of him or not going to get rid of him? And number two, okay, now who's going to come take his place? If you do accomplish that, so then you got to worry about who's the new person coming in. So let's just wait till 2026 when his term is up, and we'll see what happens then. But
well, I just thought we would be remiss if we didn't touch on the Jerome Powell situation, and the fact that the President-elect Trump has stated, I'm not going to ask him And the interesting thing, there was a follow-up question when he said that. The person said, well, but are you going to? He said, I don't plan to tell him to leave either. And that's when he went on to say, I don't always agree with everything, but I made that choice in the first place, and it was a good choice. Yeah. And so he's going to stick with him at least through the end of his term, which goes through 2026, which would be well into the Trump presidency. Right. They might come... does the president take time to meet with the Fed chairman? Do they have conversations? Does the Fed chairman make it a point to talk with the president? If so, they might, have some conversations. It's like, I'd like to see things done this way, and maybe they can come to some terms that's going to keep them on a more friendly basis and no threats of a change at that level. Yeah,
number one, I don't think there's anything that says the Fed chairman has to talk to the president.
Right.
The Fed chairman is required to appear before Congress a certain number of times each year and present. And there have been Fed chairmans in the past which were very interesting to watch. Bernanke was the master of it. Bernanke could talk for 2 hours, and then people spent weeks trying to figure out what he said. Whereas Jerome Powell was much more direct, and it was kind of crystal clear what he was saying. But he was a little bit, especially during 2022 and that when we were talking about recessions and things like that. I mean, he was pretty clear that I'm going to do this, and I don't care if we slip into a recession, which wasn't good for the markets. But I mean, there has been times. There was time. Gosh, I can't remember. I guess it was Bernanke at that time, and. He walked into the White House, and, the press reported he went into the White House. He was meeting with President Clinton at the time, if I remember correctly. And it caused wide gyrations in the bond markets. And it'd be just because, big, like, you're talking bonds dropped 2 points, which is a huge move for bonds. And that was just because everybody was worried that the Fed chairman was going and having a meeting with the president at that time.
Doesn't take much.
No, nothing came of it, but boy, it made things bounce around like crazy. So,
friendly meeting that everybody speculated a wild range of things. Obviously.
Well, if you don't give me a story, we'll make a story up to go with it. That's kind of there's a lot that goes around.
So now you're taking a shot. Just for the record, now you're taking a shot at my profession.
It's not the first time.
Well, I pride myself on not being that kind of journalist.
I agree.
Personally, especially right here in Loveland, there are enough stories that I don't even cover. Mm-hmm. I don't need to make anything up.
Right.
So I don't think and journalists are not journalists if they do make things up or. Then they're editorialists when they just do their own narrative. That's all. We don't need to get off on that. This is about taking stock.
Yeah, but I will give you credit, though. I'll give you a pat on the back that in my time that we've spent together on certain things, that you, in my opinion, you've done a good job of getting both sides of the story and presenting the facts.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a fair statement, and I don't think in the media that's always true.
I would claim that that's what I do. Whether I've missed on occasion or not, that
Sure.
It's fun because I would like to say that I don't show any bias.
Right.
Well, that's baloney. Because somehow you do, because your bias is there somehow, and no matter how hard I try. Yes, maybe I present both sides, but there could still, if I'm writing the story, it's certainly possible that you can see some bias. But I try only 100% to present the facts from all sides of the story. And and I like that people say both sides of the story.
Yeah.
I wish it was only two.
Yeah,
sides.
only two, right?
But there are so many stories.
This side, that side, and the truth, right?
Yeah. There's one here in Loveland, and if I brought it up specifically right now and said a certain thing, everybody go, "Yep." Mm-hmm. That we'll take the city leaders, we'll take the residents who were either for or against, whatever it was, and again, I'm not going to say it. And then among the city leaders, there was opposition within the city leadership of do we do this or do we not do that. And so that was four sides right there, and somehow, people just didn't like it. So anyway,
again, there's the way, in my opinion, there's the way news used to be, and then there's the way that the news is now. And I like the news better when they just told me what was going on and didn't editorialize on.
When the news reports the facts, you know what? That's why sports is so good. The game is the game, and these are the facts of the game. I mean, they can still throw a narrative in because there's, they might see officials' calls a certain way. But aside from that, the players played, the results happened, and you can't, the score's the score. So sports is great, Well,
the result is the result. How you got to the result could be open for debate.
Disputed.
That's right.
Now you're making trouble.
Anyway, taking stock.
Yeah, well, right. So when we sidetrack, again, thought it would be remiss if we didn't bring up the Jerome Powell situation with President Trump and his thoughts on the subject. We've covered that. But you also touched on, the fact in discussing that we are in a good place right now. So let's get back to the numbers.
Okay.
So what are you telling us on this Tuesday, December the 10th, 2024? What are you seeing, and how do the numbers look?
Let's take a little look at the year.
Okay.
We've had at least a very good year.
At least a very good year.
I don't want to get say great or fantastic, but depending on where you were, it probably was great or fantastic. We're easily up 30% this year if you're looking at stocks, and you look at some certain sectors. We'll point out the technology sector again, which has done way better than 30%. And if you look at an individual stock like NVIDIA, there's a number of NVIDIA millionaires out there because of what happened with it here in the last 12 months. So same with Bitcoin.
Boom! I was just going to say, don't skip Bitcoin. Yeah. Bitcoin hit what, 100,000?
Yeah, it was at 103, 104,000 at one point.
What does that mean with Bitcoin?
The value of it's a currency, but the value of a Bitcoin, with a unit of supposed currency, is 100,000. So so if you bought Bitcoin at 10,000, you've 10 times your money since you bought it at 10,000. So, and it in just 5 weeks ago, Bitcoin was just call it roughly 70,000, and then next thing you know, it's at 100,000. So, the value of your investment went up 50% in a very short period of time.
This goes to, a few words, and whether certainty or uncertainty can come from those few words, or a visit by the Fed chairman to the White House can stir it up, or President-elect, whoever that may be, in this case it was Donald Trump about 5 weeks ago, who said he wants to see Bitcoin, stabilize and be a part of the future economy. And now you said it was about 70,000, and it's gone.
Yeah, just call it.
That's almost a 50. That's
today.
Almost a 50% increase.
Right. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. And I do know people who bought Bitcoin at 1,000 back in the early 2000s. So they're happy campers right now. But
So what is So Bitcoin doesn't really exist.
You're talking to a grumpy old man here, right?
You and me both. Where do I get a Bitcoin coin? There isn't one, is there?
There isn't one. It's digital.
It's digital.
Yeah, the whole thing's digital, and it's based on algorithms and blockchain and stuff. Honest, to be perfectly honest, I don't have a great grasp.
Do you have any Bitcoin stories?
Well,
knowledge of a.
Yeah,
you said you knew some people that purchased it at 1,000.
Yeah, so Bitcoin, it's like, so you bought it at 1,000. Well, here we are. Let's say it was at 70,000, and are you taking profits? Oh no, it's going to 100,000. Okay, why is it going to 100,000? Well, basically because. Okay, I'm like, well, because isn't an investment strategy. Because doesn't have fundamentals to it, right? So it's very hard to take Bitcoin and say, okay, we're trading at 100,000 today, based on these fundamentals and these criteria and things like I would buy a share of stock. I can't take. There's nothing out there for me to say, okay, well, Bitcoin's worth 120,000. There's just not there. And also Bitcoin has bounced around all over the place. We've gone from 20,000 to 70-something thousand, back down to 19,000, and now we're sitting up here at 100,000. It's not acting like a currency. Okay, the U.S. dollar, the yen, and all that doesn't bounce around like that.
Much more steady.
And there's checks and balances too, right? There's secondary markets and things that kind of provide checks and balances. Now, there's a 25-year-old out there right now going, you don't know what you're talking about. But that's fine. Like, it's
Well, I'm going to keep asking you questions, and that 25-year-old is going to keep saying he doesn't even know the right questions.
Well, yeah, right.
Ask,
well, Jarvis Global invests. Okay,
right.
We invest on fundamentals. We're looking for neglected securities, neglected sectors, neglected asset classes. We want to buy something growthy, but we want to pay a reasonable price for that growth and things like that. You can't do that with Bitcoin. Okay, you can't. You're speculating. There's a difference between speculating and investing. Okay, so if I go to whatever it's called now, Horseshoe Casino or whatever they call it, and I play roulette, I'm speculating, okay?
Sure.
I'm placing a bet on a hunch, on a gut thing, or maybe I'm just hoping I'm lucky, right? And that's kind of how I look at Bitcoin right now. But, the person I talked to who bought it at 1,000 and said it's going to 100,000, congratulations, they were right. Were they right for the right reasons? I don't know. But now you talk to them, it's like, well, you're going to take profit. I'm like, for me, if I've got that much profit in something, I'm at least going to take my money off the table, and we'll just play with the house money. But now they're talking. Now you're starting to hear, Bitcoin's going to $1 million, and I'm like, okay, here we go. Okay, why is it going to $1 million? Because
I don't know.
Because it's like, okay, I can't invest my client's money based on I hope it does, or because right. So. But I'm not saying, I have this conversation with a lot of people, and it's funny because, I'll have an 85-year-old client who is very, very conservative, but yet calls and says, what do you think about Bitcoin or cryptocurrency? And it's like, well, this is what I think, basically what I just said to you. But, if you want to take a small amount of money and you want to dabble and you're not worried about losing that money, that's most certainly something we can try, but you have to acknowledge the fact that we're not investing your money. We're betting, and I think that's kind of where we are right now. So, but you look at the new administration that's coming in. You're looking at the people that the new president is surrounding himself with, and all of that would be positive indicators for cryptocurrency in the future. So.
And he mentioned it specifically too, so that it lines up, so to speak. Yeah. Well, so a question, and I hate to kind of pound on this, especially since you said you're not necessarily the knowledgeable one, but how do you buy? Who has it? What is Bitcoin like you said, somebody bought it at 10,000, and now it's gone to 100,000, so they made 10 times as much. And you said somebody bought it at 1,000. I can tell one story, which is a reason like Sue and I aren't looking at Bitcoin at all. Mm-hmm. To this point, we haven't, and I don't see us changing our mind about it. I get what is it? Nephew-in-law, so our niece's husband bought Bitcoin.
Okay.
I don't know how long ago. People can't see me waving my arm, going way back when, but he bought the Bitcoin. Very sadly, for our niece, he got a terminal cancer and has since passed away.
Okay.
And so, the estate is whatever. Well, the estate included some Bitcoin.
Okay.
She can't access it.
Okay. Sure, if it's in his digital wallet.
And if you don't nobody knows.
If you don't have the passwords for the digital wallet, you're not
gone.
You're not getting into it. So
it's gone.
Yeah.
it's gone.
So you have that.
But where did he buy one? What is this digital thing? Do we even have an explanation for how you buy them?
You can buy it online. I mean, basically, you're giving money and you're putting stuff into your.
I send today it's $100,000. So let's say if that's what I had to pay. That's the price for a Bitcoin. A share of a Bitcoin or whatever is 100. Who do I send my $100,000 to?
Yeah, I don't know.
That's scary.
I'm
not trying to destroy Bitcoin,
right?
But if you're listening to this, you have to be asking the question.
Well,
don't you?
I 100% believe that there will be a digital currency in our future, and it will probably move to a digital currency, and that's how we will live our lives. We're not there yet. Okay, it's being used. I mean, there's certain places you can buy a car with
Bitcoin,
cryptocurrency these days, right? Ethereum, there's there are of them nowadays. But yeah, you can already do it.
Comes to mind for me, but anyway, that's okay.
But again, if you brought, maybe let's say you brought my son in here, he might have a much more intelligent discussion about this.
Well, Art, Chuck Gibson and Art Jarvis talking about this. I am sitting here thinking, Art, should we bring Austin in for an episode? Should we bring Austin and Caitlin in to talk about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency? Are they more up to date on it than we are?
They would sound less than sound better than a 50-something-year-old man trying to explain it. But yeah, it's going to be a thing.
I'm sending Caitlin an email. After we're done today.
You might bring in my replacements for 2025. But
just special guest, not replacement.
I don't believe it's going away. Let's be clear about that. It's not something like that. It's a thing, but we've got. Well, how many cryptocurrencies there are? Let's say there's 100. It's way more than that, but. Somewhere along the line, we got to choose which one it is, basically, or a couple of them or something like that. And I think like Ethereum or Bitcoin are definitely the ones that most people talk about. So I would say they're in the front running. But the thing, honestly, that I have trouble getting a good grasp on is still how do you value it? Right. What is the true fundamental value of a Bitcoin? I can't answer. I honestly cannot answer that question. And I've had a rule for all the years that I've been in this business is if you don't understand it, don't invest in it. You better, and I've seen examples of where, I've been associated or seen where someone bought something that they didn't understand. Collateralized mortgage agreements sticks out back in the 90s,
right?
Where people invested in things that they didn't understand and they were hurt severely because of it. So if I don't understand it, if I don't understand how it works, if I don't have a good solid idea of why I'm investing in something, I'm not going to invest in it. Now I'm using the word invest. Right.
No,
there's still that.
That's what we're talking
about. There's still
that
speculation part of the equation, right? If you have $1 million and you want to take 10,000 and put it in Bitcoin, that's what you want to do, and you acknowledge the fact that it's a different animal and it may be great for you. It might not be so great for you. If you want to take that trip, certainly there are vehicles for us to do that. There are mutual funds and exchange traded funds where you can invest in Bitcoin or in cryptocurrency and participate without having to go out and buy the actual coin or actual cryptocurrency and put it into your digital wallet.
Yeah, that's a great response at the end of that. Especially, there's ways to be, involved with it, to participate in the investment of it, where maybe it's part of something, and so you can get something. I wanted to touch on, we've got like a minute.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Let me check and see. What do we really have left here? Okay, about a minute. That was right. Chuck is paying attention to the clock a little bit, aiming for 30. So in a minute or less, are you seeing, some stability coming back to the technology world? I know, you touched on NVIDIA, and I saw some things in the past couple of weeks about that somebody's, there's another technology group, same ballpark. That's a challenger to NVIDIA, and I can't think of the specific name. You probably would know it if I.
Be like maybe Advanced Micro Devices or something along those lines.
That's not it, but
Well,
that's okay. But there's anyway, there was a specific story about like in technology, and that's the chip market, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Correct.
So just to make sure I was on the right page, and the story was, and it's not NVIDIA, and they went on to talk about this company that's like maybe up and coming. I just didn't know, but which led me to the question for you of, so you feeling like there's the technology market is stabilizing a little bit and a stronghold for investing in the near future, or what do you say?
I'm not sure I'd use the word stabilizing, but I do believe that if you're looking at the technology and technology market sector, and if you're looking at sectors associated with it.
Well, is it going to be growthy? I shouldn't have said stable.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, if you're going in and buying NVIDIA today, some people would argue that it's a little pricey right now.
Yeah.
But at the same time, people would tell you, well, based on this growth rate, it's not. But if I'm looking 5 to 10 years out, then I still think the technology sector as a whole is going to do well. I mean, NVIDIA is the artificial intelligence chip maker that everybody knows or recognizes, but that's a very profitable market. They're doubling their earnings every quarter. So guess what? They're not going to be. There's going to be other ones out there trying to get a piece of that market, right? And that's going to continue. Artificial intelligence is not going to go away, and its uses in any other sector, whether it's telecommunications or medical technology or energy or consumer appliances, and that's all. Those are all going to. It's going to continue.
Yeah.
So if I'm looking, it wouldn't surprise me if we're sitting in the technology. Let's say it just gets way, way ahead of itself. It wouldn't surprise me one bit if we're not in the technology sector strongly for another decade. I mean, it might be 2 decades as far as I know, but I'm trying to say that from a long-term perspective, I still say it's the place to be, and especially if we're going to get into a declining interest rate environment, those kinds of companies are going to do well in that environment also.
That's a key factor.
How's that for 1 minute?
I'm going to say perfect.
There you
go. I'm sure it was a little bit longer, but perfect.
Yeah, I never answer anything in 1 minute.
Well, hey, as we wrap, thanks for joining us for this edition of Taking Stock with Art Jarvis. Join us again in 2 weeks for our next edition. Taking Stock with Art Jarvis is a presentation of Loveland Beacon in partnership with Jarvis Global Investments, LLC. Jarvis Global Investments, LLC is a registered investment advisory firm. The advisor is not attempting to furnish personalized investment advice or services during this production. Individuals should fully investigate the appropriateness of any investment before investing. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. Investments may lose value.